Now that the first round of the fantasy football playoffs are over, let's look at some players that you can pick up off the waiver wire if you need to make up for some injuries like Jonathan Taylor, Tyler Lockett, or Jalen Hurts, or if you want to build up your bench, that needs to be done as well to ensure a win and get to the next round of your fantasy football championship. So with that being said, let's remember everyone on the waiver wire that we're about to name right now doesn't necessarily have to be jammed into your starting lineup every single week. You obviously have to start the best available every week, but if you want to build out your bench or you're dealing with a bunch of injuries, these are some guys that you can pick up off the waiver wire to help you fill in those gaps and build your bench. So with that being said, the first player we need to grab off the waiver wire should be obvious. It is Zay Jones. Trevor Lawrence continues to average 40 pass attempts a game. So like we were saying last week, his volume could be somewhat consistent. He did have 3 touchdowns for over 100 yards. That's not going to be consistent, but his volume is. He also had 6 catches, so he looks to be hyper efficient with those targets. Over the past 5 weeks, Zay Jones has averaged 10 targets a game and has been extremely consistent with those targets as well, as we saw last week. But at the same time, not many people are giving Trevor Lawrence some credit. He's been looking very good. But Zay Jones is rostered in 55% of leagues. I'm expecting that to go to 100 after this week, so if you do have a good waiver claim, go ahead and put one in on Zay Jones. The next interesting guy that you can go grab off the waivers, a guy that we were talking about in last week's lessons learned video, Tyler Algier. It does look like the Falcons are giving Tyler Algier more of a workload now that they are officially out of the playoffs. That's also why they put Desmond Ridder in as the starter for the rest of the season, just to see what they have with him. So that's the same kind of situation they're giving Tyler Algier here. But he did have a very good day, 17 carries for over 100 yards and a touchdown. He did split the backfield with Cordero Patterson about 50-50, but if the Falcons aren't playing for anything for the rest of the season, I could expect this role to continue. And he's only rostered in 40% of leagues, so he has a lot of upside going forward. Another running back that I'm not as excited about, but you can still pick up off the waivers if you do need him, is Zach Moss. It looks like Jonathan Taylor will be out for the rest of the season, and the backfield will probably be a committee between Zach Moss and Deion Jackson. But as of right now, we don't know who the clear back is going to be, if there even is one for the Colts right now. But we do know that within that time of injury last game, Zach Moss saw 53 snaps compared to Deion Jackson at 25. He did have 24 carries for 81 yards, which is a pretty good showing for him, but we aren't sure exactly who's going to be the lead back in this offense, so keep an eye on them. They are both rostered in under 10% of leagues, so you can probably wait another week, but keep an eye on them for sure. But it looks like we finally have to start trusting Jerick McKinnon as a startable fantasy football player here. He has been the RB1 over the past 2 weeks. Is this volume going to sustain itself? Absolutely not, but he can probably still be startable. Now, Jerick McKinnon is really only addable if you are in a PPR league. If you're not playing PPR, skip this player. But he has had 17 targets in the past 2 weeks, which is absolutely amazing. But he also had 4 touchdowns in that 2-week period. Now, I do think both of these running backs could be startable players, but I wouldn't start Jerick McKinnon over a guy like Deontay Johnson or Zay Jones moving forward. But I could see him as a sneaky running back for this one reason that not a lot of people know of. Leading up to the playoffs last year, Jerick McKinnon's role increased a lot over CEH because they liked his versatility in the pass game. He can also run a little bit, so it looks like that is exactly what is happening here with Isaiah Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon. They are slowly giving Jerick McKinnon more and more volume, as you can see here over the past weeks, and it looks like that is not slowing down. He's only rostered in 55% of leagues, so try to pick him up if you can, but I do expect him to be rostered in almost 100% of leagues after this week. Now, you should not be streaming quarterback still if you have made the fantasy football playoffs, but if somehow you did, or if you had Jalen Hurts and he got injured and you need a quarterback off the waivers, you might as well go and look Brock Purdy's way. He has actually been a lot better than most people, including myself, have expected him to be. He gets the Washington Commanders, which have a pretty weak secondary. Also, if Benjamin St-Juste is out this week, it'll be even better of a play for Brock Purdy. He does have all those weapons around him, which make him a viable fantasy football start. He's only rostered in 12% of leagues, so if you do need a quarterback to fill in for this week, he is a fine option. Another more under the radar fantasy football waiver wire ad, if you are in a little bit of a deeper league or you just want to build out your bench, is Marquise Goodwin. It looks like Tyler Lockett is out and will need finger surgery, so if this happens to be a long-term injury, Marquise Goodwin could see a lot of increased role right next to DK Metcalf. He also gets to face the Chiefs next week, which is going to be a high-scoring, high-volume game, so if you really are in need for a waiver wire ad that is not rostered in many leagues, go pick him up. Again, these guys off the waivers aren't necessarily players that you can plug in and start every single week, but if you are in deeper leagues, definitely a fine option. The next player that has been on our must-add for the 2nd straight week in a row is Chig Okonkwo. He continues to see his role increasing, this week officially overtaking Austin Hooper as the tight end 1, playing 60% of the snaps and drew in 5 targets, which was a team high. He continues to see a 30% target rate, which is the 2nd most amongst tight ends in the NFL. If Treylon Burks continues to miss more time, he could be a smash play and could be started as early as this week again. Another guy I do want to quickly add in here is Jordan Mason. Obviously, he's not going to have any immediate value in fantasy football, but if CMC were to go down, he would be the clear RB1 in that offense. And now is the time where you need to be grabbing your handcuffs if you have a workhorse running back, those being players like Alexander Madison, Kareem Hunt, Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson, any of those guys. If you have a clear workhorse running back, you need to have their backup stashed. I am going to end this video off with a couple defensive streaming options if you are still in need of that. Starting off with the Texans, they did have a pretty good week against the Chargers. Pretty dominant offense, holding them to only 17 points, but they do get the Texans this week. I know the Texans have been pretty hot as of late, but it's still the Texans. You can't really expect too much from them. Another defense that I would consider that is probably 99% available in your league is the LA Rams defense. They get the Broncos this week, which average 1.3 touchdowns a game, which is the lowest amongst any NFL team. They just can't move the ball, especially with Russell Wilson being out. They will probably be a smash play defense, but that is going to do it for this video. If you guys do hit that like button, I would be very appreciative, but I'll see you guys in the next video coming out tomorrow.